Okay, here we go. It's that awkward part of the early stream. I'm going to open my beverage at this point. There it goes. I'm not sure who I'm going to get because of the late hour on a Sunday. I apologize for that. But welcome if you get the notification or are in a different time zone. I apologize for starting late. In celebration, I mean, I don't even know what I'm celebrating, but I guess this is sort of a wrap-up of my November to December old photo marathon. I mean, I'll still be doing the streams and stuff, but I mean, they'll be maybe a little bit more few and far between. ... I'm enjoying a beverage of a refreshing nature here as I prepare to do the second part, finish up last week's photos of, I think it's Baltimore stuff, is it? No, it's Baltimore Picks 2 of my February 2004 photos. And this is sort of a logical, last week we went from all sorts of fun stuff on the Baltimore Terminal sub of CSX GE engines you don't see anymore, and some you do. This is mainly going to be signals around Port Deposit on the NS Port Road branch. And again, for anyone who's slowly arriving, I apologize for the lateness. Things go fast here. I've one of the rare nights I can put out trash at my mom's house, and I got caught up doing that. And then the streams always take longer to start than I think they do. Anyway, I'll make sure that I'm not going to be going to the CSX Diesel page, so hopefully the stream integrity will be all right. And anyway, we will begin. What I'm basically covering is some automatic signals north of Port Deposit and then CP-TOME, within Port Deposit's town limits. For those who don't know, the port road named for Port Deposit, which was a fairly active port, which is the southernmost navigable port on or the northernmost navigable port on the Susquehanna River. The Port Road or the Columbian Port Deposit branch, whatever you want to call it, Pennsylvania Railroad, blah, 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 runs from Perryville on the NEC up to Columbia, where it joins with some other stuff. The Atlant and Susquehanna becomes the NOLA branch, runs up to Harrisburg. It was basically the PRR's freight route, primary freight route from its hub at Harrisburg down to Baltimore, electrified, lower grades than using the Northern Central through York. And until about 2011, it had a lot of surviving PR heritage that you'll get to see here, whether you're seeing it live or after I post the stream later. Between Route 1 and 95, there is, I think it's, again, let me pull up the map here. Between Route 1 and 95, if you can see it here on the old faux Google Maps, it should be US 222. It's now reading Maryland 222. Maybe there was some sort of issue with that, which is odd. Anyway, it pretty much runs up along the rail line, so you can see most of it from the road. And it's specifically at two locations in Port Deposit where you have CP-TOME, visible right there, fairly long extended interlocking limits. And then north of town, there was before you got to West Rock interlocking, there was an intermediate, it was a signaled sort of siding, a 2-block siding. So there was actually a place where if you were driving at night, especially, there's the old, oh, sorry. They're not there anymore. That's why I'm not seeing them. Where is that location? Wait a second. What? Oh, someone just put in like a fake something here. Oh, anyway. Yeah, the signal location used to be right in there. You can still see the thing. You could see it from the road, and that's how I knew where it was. So it was one of those early things I would go back to. At the time when the PR signals were still there, it was labeled C64 or 65. C is mileage from mileage to Columbia or Columbian Port Deposit. That was the branch identifier. 6.4 is Milepost 6.4 from Perryville. As we continue some special, let me just see who's here. As we continue some special things to look out for, up until around 2009, the power for all the signals from all along the Port Road were provided by the original 1939 electrification power. That's this bit right here. So these were live at 6.9 kilovolts or 6.6 kilovolts, somewhere around there, of 100 hertz current generated at the Safe Harbor Dam and a special power converter down near Minnick Interlocking, or the former Minnick Interlocking near Perryville. So it was it's a very neat sort of setup they had going on, and also the old electrification. So the electrification was stripped out, and service ended in 81. The wires were pulled down somewhere at time between 81 and 86-ish. And then they just sort of stood there until 2011, where NS systematically went through and scrapped almost all of them because metal. One other thing, I'm not sure if it's going to show up in the other things. You see this giant yellow square on that transformer there? That means it's full of PCBs. So that's original PR equipment full of, a superior, anything that's toxic. It's got to mean that it probably does its job really well, because otherwise, why would they use it? Anywho, the best part here is that I can sort of use the same labels I did back in the day. So, but you can see the really poor resolution I was using here back in the days of 640 by 480 monitors and 56K modems. So anyway, I'm just gonna stop rambling on here. That's the prefix, the whatchamacallit. One neat thing about the Port Road compared to a lot of other Conrail or signaling, the signals were not approach lit, mainly because it was electrified territory in 1939 or 38, whenever they put, about when they put this through. They weren't running the signals on battery power because they had that 6.9 kV power line, and all they had to do was they just like leave the bulbs on because we got plenty of power, and that's great. So that's one great thing of the Port Road is that when you would drive up on these, unlike even the Pittsburgh line, the signals were not approach lit. So you could park. I did some things of like parking. I was out with my dad around these times, and I have some night shots where I was steadying the car, the camera on the car and everything. Here we have the combined crossing equipment and relay hut for the signal location. I was here in around 2011, where there was a maintainer on site, and I got some pictures inside that. That's one of those things I'd say I could pull it up, but I'd have to really search through some photos for that. Let me see, maybe I can find it. That's the first year they don't have up yet, but I can find it in a second. I hate going on these fetch quests. This is the one. Blah, 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 blah. I think here it is. Yeah, I really should have taken more photos, but I didn't, because the guy, I don't know, I felt I was pressing my luck. But you had this neat mix of some modern stuff and all these awesome shelf relays, and of course the electromechanical cab signal stuff. I really don't know why I only took one picture. That was dumb. Maybe I have another one in here somewhere. I thought I took two. Nah, it looks like I just got one. Derp. I think the guy was standing there, and I just didn't want to have him in frame or whatever. And yeah, I can see here's the scrap crew. I caught it right as they were pulling the stuff down. Real shame. Anyway, that's 2011, and I mean here's a 2011 view of the same thing, but the pole line power had been killed at that point, or the power. Anyway, time to move on. Time to stick with what we're doing here. Yeah, just got to keep on forging ahead. Well, I mean, you can't say there's too much special. So this did use the PR style of Rule 250. This went in the 30s. This went in as a CTC line with CTC machines at Cola and Perry Towers. Perry controlled, I think, everything up to West Rock. So I think that this was in Perry's. I mean, I can go look it up, but I just don't. You don't want to hear me go to dead air. So I can't say for sure if it was if they went up through West Rock or just Tome. But it used the traffic lever system, where unlike sort of other like GRS, the signals would not float when there was nothing to block, so they'd either be set north or south. And of course, they were mounted on the right hand side. Here we have a better view of the power supply there. Let me just see what I can do with this real quick. I'll zoom in on that so you can see it more effectively. So, just like on the NEC today, signal power it's a single phase circuit. It was generated at the old substations. That would have been on the Port Road. The substations were at Conowingo, Fishing Creek, Safe Harbor, and Columbia, etc., etc. And then when those were decommissioned, it still was generated at Safe Harbor because that was still there for Amtrak use. But Conrail built a converter box down by Minnock. I have some 2009 photos of that. But like you see, every signal location you had a section switches. These were not automated. So if a tree fell into this, then you'd have to send a maintainer out to figure out where the short was. Basically all your signal power would go down. You have to send a guy out. They have to figure out where the problem was, isolate it, then you'd get part of your signaling back. You'd isolate on either side of the break. You'd get part of your signaling back, your power back, if it's at least fed on each end, and you're good to go there. That's why NS really went with utility, and as railroads used to be power companies, but they are not power companies. As much as I would love it, that's why they want to be out of the pole line business. They don't need to maintain linemen. So they basically, instead of doing their own power, they slowly hook them up to the utility power. Whether or not that's more reliable, it doesn't matter. If it goes down, they can have a quality, a level of service agreement, and bada bing, bada boom, contracting solves your problem. Funny how that works. This isn't a great. I'm not going to be making up all my new file names. I would change some of these if I could, but since I visited this thing so frequently, I don't want to try to have name collisions. My old digital camera, I'd A, not mastered the art of how to deal with backlighting, and B, my 3 megapixel Olympus was probably not the most versatile. Although, I mean, Olympus used to make great quality digital. I'm once again going to extol the virtues of Olympus digital cameras and then complain about how they went to crap after about 2012, or sometime between 2006 and 2012. What do I need to do here? I want to get a square aspect ratio. There it goes. And as you can see here, even though it's backlit, you can see that both the traffic on both lines are set in the westbound direction. It is east. It is still east-west. PR really was allergic to north-south, and even though, I mean, it is compass a very north-south railroad, but PRR wanted most things. If they could get away with it, it was east-west. Although surprisingly, the whole Pennsylvania Reading seashore line was north-south. When you live in South Jersey, even though Atlantic City is almost as south, is basically due southeast. You feel that the shore is west, is always west, and Philly is always east. So it's a little hard to get over the fact of the PRSL being north-south. Little close-up thing. Instead of trying to blow it out, gotta get my thing here. Oops. Yeah. I could have done more Port Road stuff. I only really started doing it after it became clear that, oh my gosh, it's toast. And I got it all documented, but I definitely could have done more. This is when I don't have the excuse. I mean, I did have digital cameras. I was driving past it on a fairly regular basis. Although I will say, making the effort to get out there and really get the photos of everything was an effort. And before that, I was trying to do a lot of Philly sub CSX stuff. Yeah. There it is. The Port Road always, despite the general issues with unfocused position lights, whoever was maintaining the Port Road did a pretty good job of them. Or I don't know, maybe because the 1939 was new, or I don't know. But they always seemed pretty bright and pretty focused on the Port Road compared to some other lines, which would suffer from a real lack of focusing. And for those of you who don't know, position lights, Pennsylvania amber position lights, I'm sure I've said this before, have a parabolic mirror inside to function with low wattage lamps and a whole bunch of lensing. So if they're not focused properly, they can seem really dull. One thing you want to notice here definitely is the main track is here on the right. There's a contraction, a trailing siding at CP West Rock. So the C65 signal, there's no diverging route ahead. It just, straight. Whereas the C64 and C65, because this is the midpoint of a siding, both of those, they display stop, approach, or approach medium in both directions. So that's the thing. Of course, I never saw an approach medium ever pulled. I don't think I ever saw a clear ever displayed on this signal. Here we have the power supply. And again, you can see here's right here these two verticals. Those operate the knife switches. Here is your now again. I tell you this is 100 hertz. It's 100 hertz for the cab signal track circuits, or the cab signal codes. It uses coded 100 hertz track circuits, so they just generate the 100 hertz current. They don't have to have any sort of motor generators at any of the intermediate locations, and everything else just is set up for 100 hertz. But one thing that's worth noticing, frequency of an AC feed is the size of a transformer is proportional to the AC frequency. So a 25 hertz transformer is going to be larger than of the same capacity. It's going to be larger than a 60 hertz. It's going to be larger than a 100 hertz, which is why that's so small. And then in aircraft, they use 400 hertz just to get that weight of those transformers as down as much as possible. make sure that everything's working. Oh, hey, Costa Rica, that's cool. Hey, Brian, good to see you again. And again, I'm just one of the reasons that I don't stream my more modern stuff, besides the fact that I don't have as much to talk about in terms of history, is because that a lot of my stuff, especially, is just going to be. This is the precursor of what all my stuff became. 500 pictures of signals at a fairly complicated interlocking. I don't think, I can't keep that up of here is this angle and here is this angle. I only have limited amounts to talk about. What is one interesting thing is that when there was the PR designed this whole sort of electrification territory signal mount where you had the lower head, which had its own little bitty ladder. You can see it right there. The cage was designed to keep any, to have any maintainers working aloft to keep them from coming into contact with any, or anything they were holding, anything dangling down or contacting the live overhead catenary. And this design is used to this day on even color light installations on the Northeast Corridor or New Jersey Transit. In a lot of these cases, they will still have this little box, a little bitty ladder. So that's a neat little sort of holdover from the day. It's interesting that here in these 2004 photos, this is actually using some of the nomenclature I've used for my current signal sets. And naming your stuff is very important, mainly because just like legal terms, when you're taking every possible angle, if you aren't strict in how you name, you're constantly going to be you're going to have inconsistent naming, but B, when you need to go in and do photos in multiple sessions, you don't want to have collisions, which force you to that name's already taken, blah 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 blah. You definitely want to try to be. That means you take a picture of everything once, or if you've forgotten to take something, you go back, and that way you can slot right in without having to go and deconflict all your names. And it also shows you when you've actually and if you have a strict naming convention, if you do have duplicate shots, angles, you're instantly made aware that you have duplicate shots and angles because you'll come up with a naming collision. Just again, reverse angle here of the C64 ones. Not entirely how I would come to name it, but this is good enough. Again, these are all gone, so there's no point for me trying to deconflict for any future stuff. I bet I deleted this back in the day. Let's see. This looks like one of those ones that I probably would have rejected back in the day. Oh, nope. There it is. But I didn't level it, or I didn't straighten it, or do much else with it. And last one of the set here of C64. One surprising thing, especially when I said I encountered this signal a number of times at night due to its proximity to some Boy Scout camps that I would get involved with. And I was often, at least at the time when I was going up there, I was either getting there late at night for events or leaving the event. Like, instead of doing it overnight, I'd leave early with my dad. We'd be driving down US 222 to get back to 95, and then suddenly from the side of the road, you just see these. I said they were well focused and very very bright. You would pull up to it, and it was like it's hard to describe. It's almost like it's amber, kind of like a low pressure sodium vapor. But they were it was like a big amber moonlight, just like tonight's a full moon, where it's dark, but it's both light and dark at the same time. It's just sort of like this sort of saturated, low intensity saturated light, but that's still, maybe you can't read by it, but it lit up everything to a point, and it just provided this interesting sort of really cool atmosphere. As I reminisce of, I mean, I remember the time where I took the night shots, and I forget where those are. I mean, I can pull them up, but I remember that very, very vividly to this day. Driving by with my dad and seeing him from the car, and was like, "Stop the car, let's go. I wanted to get some pictures of that." And he was cool enough to do so. I bet I can find those night shots, unless they are... Here they are. Are these redone? Nah, these aren't redone, but I think I redid them in a different thing. So here I had an early night photography bug thanks to a friend, and I wanted to try it out. And these were taken in 2005. And you can just see they're not in any order. Yeah, see, there's your PCB. There's your PCB warning, like I told you. Let me just see if I can get more of those night ones. Maybe I didn't take that many. Nah. Here's some more night. Yeah, that's right. There's one more. Yeah, just great I mean, those parabolics are perfectly focused at this location. So I just was never really there to get more photos of it at night after those first bunch. All right, and just here we have a sort of a westward view. Besides the cabinets, it was also interesting. I also liked these early models. I mean, a lot of railroads had them. Of what today are just those generic stainless steel relay huts. Back in the day, there was definitely a bit more effort put into construction. You know, they didn't quite have that prefab down. They didn't have... Aluminum was expensive. These are on foundations. It's interesting how much how much less things, cost today, but at the same point, how much more things cost in general. But again, it's the thing of people being expensive and stuff being cheap. Let me just do this last one, then I'll head back to the old chat to see how people are doing. Gonna be a short set tonight, so I'll get you out of here so you can go to work tomorrow. The bell is both overspeed and cab signal. LIRR is mainly rule, 562, quote unquote. So anytime the bell, bell is a cab signal drop or an overspeed. I think they only have the bell, but I know it's definitely cab signal drop. The M1s and M3s are a Bud product. The Bud, just used a bell instead of some sort of electronic tone. All right, moving on. CP. I'm going to call it Tome. It could be Tome, or Tom. I don't know. I'm not from there. I think it's Tome. But quick points of interest here. Again, we have a pre-modern CTC interlocking relay hut. This one is made from poured concrete. Always a popular option. Right there is a giant old phone box of the surprisingly common type up through the Conrail era, where before radio you would get out if you had any issue. You'd hit that thing to call Perry Tower. The 1930, I'm going to say 39. 39 is when electrification officially reached Harrisburg. 48, 59, broke the ribbon, got there in 39. This whole low-grade complex was probably electrified and redone in the years between 35 and 39, but I'm just going to say 39. Because, it's sort of like the Queen's official birthday, or all horses are born on April 1st. Just because I just know that date. Anyway, now I forget what I was going to talk about. Yeah, so this is just indicative of an early CTC situation where you needed more room for the shelf relays, but the PR was really not a big CTC fan. They loved their block stations, but when they did it, they didn't spare. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. They didn't spare any expense. This was state of the art in 1939. Telephone communications at all the points. Signals that didn't need to be approach lit or powered by batteries. Relay interlockings controlled by CTC. Overhead electrification. This would have been as cutting edge as we consider a German high-speed rail line today, with all the advanced, again, in 1939 to have, pick up a phone and call the tower. Not that isn't directly, that isn't like, this is pretty high tech for the time. And it's good to keep that in perspective. And don't go lamenting, oh, US and blah 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 blah. We're in a different world. Technology isn't quite what it used to be in a lot of ways. But comparing the leap between manual interlockings, telegraph, battery powered electric lamps. This is as big as telegraph. No signal. No track circuits to track circuits. I got to point out a quick thing here that you might not notice. These position light hoods, these long ones, the little like anti shade like thing. Note that this guy does not have the same kind. I don't know if that's because they're a different model, aka PL3 versus PL2. There were a number of different position light models, PL1, PL2, PL3. I think I know some of those differences. I'm not a signal collector. This style, the sort of more round and less, round and squat sunshades, those are the ones that were used by the Norfolk and Western. I don't know why that one's there. Don't know. I have no idea if that was original. I don't know if that was a Conrail. We're out of stuff in the parts bin. Don't know at all. But just thought I'd point that out. It's just a little neat thing there. See, the lower end of the port road is interesting. So it comes out of Perryville 2 tracks. You have an old interlocking, aka then automatic signal location at something called Minnick. It used to be CP Minnick, and then they closed. All the industry closed. They didn't need it anymore, so it was signals. Then you had a 2-track, a 2-track to 1-track end of the double track. That's CP Quarry. That is back to back with CP-TOME. Expands back to 2 tracks. Intermediate signal C64, C65, which you saw, and then it goes back down to 1 track at CP West Rock, and then from there it does its thing from then on, but you just have this early southern end of it where it's like 2 tracks, 1 track, 2 tracks, 1 track. Port Deposit is known for flooding. It loves to flood, despite being increasingly gentrified. It loves to flood. The Susquehanna, when they get 12 inches of rain up in central Pennsylvania, it all comes right here and then it floods. So there you go. I'm going to. I don't know what I should do with this. Unlike the C64 signals, I'm not using the proper I'm not using it, but I did revisit CP-TOME a number of times, and probably. Now the interesting thing is I actually know what these signal numbers are. Man, I should have gone to TOME a lot more before it closed. I got what I needed to out of it, I think. So, I did the minimum, but I probably should have gone back a bunch more, especially since it was I had up until 2015 to do so. Um, I don't like these names. I'm gonna quick pull up the charts for these. So hold on, give me a second. Keep things in odd locations. So this is one of, again, I'm going to plug Multimodal Ways. They're an excellent resource for your Conrail interlocking diagrams. Again, I'm going to say the gold standard for naming for picture identification is to use the actual signal names and numbers. I should have had this up ahead of time because I totally forgot this is that just is that's the best. That's the best lead. Otherwise, you're getting these whole things of trying to describe what a signal is doing. It's the westbound home signal, the westbound this, the eastbound that, the siding. You got to start knowing the names of tracks, and you probably won't. If you just know the 2E signal, the 54L, it saves your file syncs, and it's completely unambiguous, and it cuts down your file name length. Here we go. Blah blah blah. So here we have. If I can get in here. Come on. There we go. Perryville. Coming out of Perryville. Oops. Come on. Quarry goes to a single track. Then it pops back up to 2 tracks here at Tome. We got the Rock. There's your C64, C65. See, I should have had this up at the beginning. CP West Rock, and then you're off to the races there. But the neat bit is that if we zoom in here on CP-TOME, first off, the code system is still 504B. That means it's the USNS relay-based, the CTC type of thing. Another neat bit is that even though they have renamed the signals 6W, 6E, 4E, number 5 switch, they kept the original lever numbers, because this is not quite resignaled, so they sort of kept them both because probably a lot of the stuff on the original plans or whatever. I've seen this in a couple places where they'll have old and new signal names. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. I'm probably going to keep the lever numbers. So just in case. Yeah, sorry to go on and on here, but I am trying to be somewhat informative as to how I try to go about naming this stuff. So like in here, I think back in the day, I would just have called these I would have tried to describe what these were. Now I can just go in and be like, it's CP-TOME, the 206L plus 206LA, signals. I mean, they're there. That's all. That's what they are. That's all you need. You don't need to describe it. You don't even need a direction at that point, because it's completely unambiguous what you're talking about. I wanted to point out one other thing with that. So this is, like I said, the signal. It's a simple end of a siding. But why is the terminating track? Why does it have this approach medium? Back to that Conrail rule, bulletin order. It's back to back with CP Quarry, so you can diverge over an approach medium. You have approach medium at C64, approach medium at CP-TOME coming off the siding. You diverge, then you'd have the medium clear at CP Quarry. As you can see here on the main track, it does have that option for the approach medium. So on the main track, you just would go clear approach medium, medium clear at CP Quarry. NS has now done things with they actually that's another interesting thing. It's normally if this was not cab signal territory, NS would do something along the lines of they would have a medium approach medium. Then they went to a phase where they would just be like they were installing new two-headed signals. So your cab signal would tell you it would give you like medium clear, and your cab would stay at approach medium. But when they redid the Pittsburgh line, they went back to allowing for the medium approach medium. I don't know. Both are completely valid ways of doing it. Oops, that's not 206L, that's 206R. Oh, wait, hold on. No, I'm right, it is 206L. It's sort of hard to tell which ones are which. Wait a second. I think Tome. Oh, wrong way. Hold on. Oh, that's because I'm switching between. Okay, Tome is where the Perry machine ended. Aha! There we go. So Perry controlled up through Tome, and its CTC machine had the left lever position for westbound, aka northbound, and the right lever position for eastbound. When you switched to the Cola machine, which is what you hit at CP West Rock, that was reversed. So westbound was right, and the other one was left. So let me go change that back again. But that's the sort of little like detective work you got to do here. Just in case. This doesn't give me the full information of what all the lever numbers, it just gives you some of the lever numbers. So, just saying. This is 206R. And this is where I've run out of narration. But just using the a lot of the if you noticed a lot of the when I'm doing a lot of signal photos, it helps to use the shadow to perk up. You don't want to blow out the whole picture. If you have those dark bits, you just want to use something where you can increase what is it here? That's the one. For this one, it's the highlight mid-tone shadow, and I'm just increasing the lighting in just the shadow areas. So whatever photo thing you use, that's a go-to for backlit signals, where you have everything else is sort of nice and your signals are all dark. I'll power through the rest of this here. Yeah, this. Oh, another thing is if you get something that's dark like this, I usually just tag it as a silhouette. There is a place for silhouettes. Like this. I can't raise detail on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just label it as a silhouette, which requires me to go to Google and see how you spell that. Because I can't. There it is. Maybe I got it right. I don't know. That's another thing I always try to do is in my naming conventions, I label oddball lighting conditions. I will label with either being a silhouette or at night or sometimes in the snow. Anything that can really change what's going on in the photo. That way you can sort on it. File name. Good file name discipline allows you to not have to tag things, and like I've described before, tag that's the app. It's like that's annoying. It also makes your stuff a lot more Google searchable without you having to do any additional work. You don't have to tag, you don't have to write descriptions. If you're taking 1,000 photos, it's a real pain. But the one thing you can do is you can give things a good file name, and that no matter how you export that, where you move it, those file names almost always persist. So if you have a good naming convention, it's such a time saver in the long run. Again, here we have the signals, plus, so again, we have the interlocking, plus those rear, and this is sort of blown out. Say the lighting condition. Again, other lighting conditions, if it's grainy, if it's soft, if it's bright. That's those things. If you have if you have defective photos, throw it into your archive, label it as defective, and if you get back there, you get that, if you get a chance for a reshoot, then you don't put that modifier on, and then it slips right into your whole photo archive. If you ever have to just flatten it out, it's all there. You can just scroll through, and you have one of them that's soft, one of them that's grainy, one of them that's dark, one of them that's dim, one of them that's overexposed. I say bright, keep it down. But if you have that good one, then you can just have that good one, and again, it keeps things simple. And like I said, I only have one more set after this. Oh, I have no idea. It's an interesting sort of. They got some what I call exorcist steps there. I want to cut back to the map to see what the heck that is. I can just call it exorcist steps. Port Deposit is kind of built on the. Oh, come on. On the side of a hill there. Where is that? This web application is toast. Come on. There it is. I know. So it looks like they did keep the original interlocking limits. I'm not sure why, because they were a bit extended. But you can sort of see here if I switch to terrain. Maybe not. Yeah, that's where the town hall and everything is. Oh, they shrank the interlocking. So the old interlocking limits, if you can sort of see here, it was a very long interlocking. You had the eastbound limits were all the way up here, sort of at the north end of town. Then you had a lot of nothing, and then you had the actual switch, and then the south limits were down around here. Things have changed since I was there last, and now they've basically shrunk it in. That's one thing that NS has been doing. Wherever possible, it's been reducing the amount of interlocking limits. Just figures it's less stuff that can go wrong. But the town is pretty much built between the river and the cliff. That's why you get a lot of flooding. This is just a nice little stairway there. I'm not sure what to do here. Sometimes I label stuff like, I always have a problem of what do I do with non-rail things. I can label it with the state and the town, which I frequently do. But sometimes I'll just keep it in with the I'll just something that's like next to an interlocking. I'll just give it the interlocking name. So it's easier to find, I guess. give that a name that means something to me there. Anyway, let me just make sure that's not too large, and we'll move on. Good enough. Here we have what I believe would be listed as the 205 switch. By this point, it was a dual control. I don't know what the PR originally installed. I'm pretty sure they installed a bunch of like low. They might have been high voltage. Back in the day, there was on CTC systems the old like 440 volt pole line ones. A lot of the electric switches were low voltage DC. That means they would take about 20 or 30 seconds to throw because you need to have a reduction gear with this little tiny low torque motor spinning around for all its life, trying to get the points to move over, and throwing it would take quite a while. Today, with because we have a power grid, that's not really much of a problem. This is definitely not an original point machine. The original ones had all you can tell they had all sorts of more rounded and cast components. Even the M23s, which has not changed in some time. Another silhouette photo here. I think back in the day I went to some enormous lengths to redo that. Sorry, I mean to. It's gonna be wrong. No, I didn't. Oh, I think I have a second photo coming up. This was just when I was sort of starting to learn, like, oh yeah, I need to make sure that in low light I get some stuff here. Alright, that's it for the second round of photos. Almost done. We just have about like 10 left, and I'll be calling a night there. Fadonk. Oh, I guess not 10. We got 13 left, but let me see what's going on in the thing. It's arguably more advanced. It depends what you're. It's definitely not cost efficient. Yeah. So a lot of people. I know. I think the current what I think what most giant photo archives people tend to do is tagging. And I know there's a lot of stuff where you can like select 100 of the photos and just hit them with a bunch of the tags, and a lot of things are made up for tagging. The major downside, I mean, besides the fact that your tagging probably won't be able to, is probably not, I mean, will get you not 80% of the way to describing what you've taken a picture of, but not the rest. That's one issue, and the other issue is simply that most of these tags tend to be proprietary to what is doing the tagging, either Photoshop or Lightroom, Photoshop, Lightroom or Picasa or whatever. And if you need to move your photos or redo them in something else, then you're screwed. Because those you got to retag. So this very, very old school file name based approach, is, as I said, it's very portable. I'm not trying to be like, I'm not like a crazy free software blah 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 person, but I don't think it's much more difficult to tag than it is to just write the right file name. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to do research of what the file name should be, but 9 times out of 10, it's pretty quick. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. I want to. Sometimes pictures are more about the ambiance than they are about like lining things up super efficiently. So I'm gonna get a little bit more. I want to do this there. Yeah, so I got these twilighty photos going on. Called this night? What's the difference between that and twilight? Da. So this is the 206 LA. I need that silhouette. Where's it? Next? Come on. There we go. Let's power through this. And again, yeah, this is where this is probably one of the first instances where I was actively setting up, adjusting either the exposure or the whatever that thing that brightens stuff up in it to make sure I got pictures of signals in the right way. This is pretty early. I mean, it's still pretty early in my photo tomfoolery. Fortunately, I said I came back and got better pictures of these in years prior. I really should have. Again, this was on my way home, and I had until 2015. It was, just nothing that I did. I got. I felt like I'd gotten the photos, but I probably should have come back a few more times to done a little bit more methodical. A bit more methodical documentation, especially the other home signal downtown. And like I said, I can just take the descriptor and just replace it with something else. Just the lever number and the description. So again, lever numbers take all the guesswork out. Also note you can see the old CTC line there, sort of the thick that guy. Similar ones were at Thorn and other places. It's a lead wrapped 1930s telecom cable. That eventually got replaced with a little PVC wrap, PVC type phone cable, and now those just aren't, aren't nothing you ever see. Fiber optics and modern stuff. You can see the Governor Tidings Bridge there for Interstate 95 for anyone who drives up and down the East Coast. That's the one with the $8 toll. One way, of course. So not quite as bad as the New York City bridges. Power through this. Get out of here. Yeah, more silhouette stuff. Silhouette ones look good. It's like the silhouette signal photos are always kind of like the especially position lights. It's like I said, it's like the black and white photo of the lawn chair. It's hard to make it not look artsy. One turn out a little bit too large. The irony is that even though NS took these out in 2015, 20. I mean, when I say 2015, it was I was taking photos of these. I wrapped up my my Port Road photos like literally on December 31st, 2015, and I think they were. If you go back, I put in my blog when they were replaced, but they think they were zapped in 2016. It wasn't immediately after that, but like sometime during 2016. Around 2010, 2009. Let me check. All these things were wrong one. They were actually, you notice in these photos, this is the one I just redid, but these are the original stuff. Sometime around 2009, again, here's the one where it's rusty. You can see all the rust, blah 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 blah. NS did a rehab. They painted it all. They put in new screws. They redid the wiring. I thought that stuff was going to be there to stay. You know, I thought that was like, wow, they're in for the long haul. But no, it wasn't the long haul. The long haul was 6 more years. So let me see when they did that. They did that rehab. 20. So they did the rehab sometime around 2010. So that was nice. They did get a little bit of a break, but I was out today, by the way. I wasn't even. I was at Marcus Hook, the old terminal for the SEPTA R2 line to Wilmington. And I caught the 606 Coca-Cola app without. I wasn't trying to, but I did. Another thing that I noticed that Amtrak Hook Tower, which is a little bit north of the Marcus Hook station, directly behind it is a public right of way. It abuts a row of row houses, and the row houses have backyard access to a sidewalk that is directly like within spitting distance of the tower. So I mean, it's just like you're there, and then it's immediately railroad property, and the tower is right up against it. So if you're ever worried about, you know, NEC rules are a bit different than other, you know, freight railroads and stuff. If you're ever wondering if you want to get up close and, you know, personal to some Amtrak towers, that one is highly accessible. We just noticed it today, and there's a little sidewalk, and you can walk right there. And if anyone does give you crap about it, you'd be like, I'm on the sidewalk. There's literally a sidewalk there. So, again, nice, another little silhouette photo. I'm going to make sure I include the cabinet there. So one other thing I use for these sort of tall photos, again, I use an aspect ratio. I try to use whole divisor aspect ratios. So it's going to be, I do for tall photos, because I still try to get my photos to be 1280 wide. But if it's a vertically oriented photo, then I can go 1500 in the long direction. I can go 1500 pixels, and I try to make it some sort of even aspect. So it'd be like 2-to-1, so 1500 to 750. I can do 1500 to 900, which is like something else. I can do the full the camera thing, which is 1500 to, you know, it's 2-to-3. So The sort of silhouetting a picture there. Not sure what I do with this one. Probably keep it dark. Now I jumped the gun on you pulling up my silhouette modifier, but I'll use it for this. Down to the last one. I'm having deja vu. I thought I got this angle already. Let me just take a quick check here. Maybe I might not need this photo. This one's slightly brighter. So, one thing I will mention again, for this, in this sort of Signal Sunday photo, where am I at? Do I want to go in or out? I want to do a square aspect ratio on this. I'll move it over. Okay. This, as you also see, this is not necessarily a new thing. We have Amtrak uses this layout today for home signals. Instead of having that / restricting, they will just do a vertical for medium clear, a backslash for a medium approach, and then for restricting, they'll just illuminate that center light for stop and proceed or restricted proceed as it would be today. So that's sort of the only thing I have there. Make sure everything's good there. Yep. Cool beans. All right. Let's see what we got going on here. Okay. So email. You can send them there. My blog. The blog, by the way, is my YouTube channel. Links to my blog if you're still around. But let me just get you the address real quick. Oops, that's the wrong blog. I mean, there's the blog. Justin, if you're still around, there's my email. I'd love to get anything of Alliance. I know it was recently zapped. I don't think you are around because it's only 2 people and I'm one of them. Sorry. So that's my signaling blog. Here's my generic stuff blog. Anyway, Justin, email me. What do you have in Alliance? I went to Alliance once in 2003 at 3 a.m. The Capital Limited I was traveling with an Amtrak employee. The Capital Limited was late enough that we went to Pittsburgh, then on the Pennsylvania, and then caught the Capital Limited to Alliance, and then caught the other Capital Limited all the way back to D.C. And I ran around in 6 inches of snow, looking at every corner of the interlocking, but I only was able to get photos of, ironically, the Darth Vaders on the east end, just because that was the only one with light. Everything else was approach lit. So I saw them all, but I couldn't get really any photos. There was a ton of traffic, and I really it was I still, again, something I remember. I'm trying to think where those photos would be. Hold on, I think I know I can pull them up. I'm pretty sure that those are actually archived if I have them in the right place. Hold on. This is where I should have been, had stuff. I'm still working on getting all my photos up. Shoot. Alright, I gotta pull them off of Google Photos. They're not up yet on my new web space. I'm sorry about the slowness of getting stuff onto my new web space. But here's my Alliance. Here's the only photos I got of Alliance in 2003 or so, right after they'd taken down the signal bridge. The one I really regret not getting, besides these like some night shots on the picnic table at the Amtrak station, I really wish I had gotten a picture of the Alliance 83 sign on the old relay hut there. But the major issue is that there just wasn't anything really lit up. I mean, like, I am literally using the rail as a tripod in this one. So, thank you for coming out. Sorry it took so long. Thank you for staying and watching. Well, it went down to 2 to 7. Next time I'm going to, I mentioned something about doing the Clifford ones. I found out that I've already done the Clifford ones. In terms of upcoming quote-unquote episodes, again, I don't know. I got to go through and look at. But I did find out that the first time I did a re-edit was actually in 2004 of this really neat trip I took on SEPTA, riding the R2 and a bunch of R2. I think I rode from Thorndale to West Trenton and back. I went out to Thorndale, then to West Trenton, and then back to Thorndale? Question mark? Why did I do that? I don't know. But I have like 200 photos from that, so that's going to be a really neat. I hope to do that at some point, but that might have to wait a significant period of time, quite possibly next Thanksgiving, just because there's so many. So it would be so many episodes. Doing them every 2 weeks would just sort of get weird. But all fine stuff, all fine content. I got to go and reprocess photos all the way through 2007. So. Fear not, this will be this streaming series will be going on for a bit more. I don't have any of those 2003 ones up here on this. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna let you go. Get to work tomorrow. I gotta do stuff, and I said look for me maybe in 2 weeks. I don't know. This is where it goes from me being reliable from Thanksgiving to now until I might. It's just when I'm home to do these things, and it needs to be me being overnight. So again, Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great time, and I will catch you maybe in 2 weeks, probably, which would then be what would it be? It would either be a Friday night or a Saturday night. Probably Friday. So much my exit. There we go.